changing world.
News-making items from the fields of science and technology that help to shape our world.
In this edition of Our Changing World, you'll be hearing reports about
a new material for dressing wounds,
hurricanes and can anything be done to limit their effects,
a new instrument for taking temperatures,
and finally a report about an electronic secretary.
We begin the programme today with a report about a perfect material for dressing wounds.
wounds which bleed, drip, or even just fester have to be dressed, and when the dressing has to be changed, it usually sticks. And not only does the changing of the dressing become a painful business, but also the wound is sometimes torn open again.
A dressing must protect the wound. It must be sterile so that no germs get into the wound, and it has to be absorbent. Moreover, it should not prevent air getting to the wound, and if possible, it should not stick.
Although the last two aims were the most difficult to achieve, the problem has at last been solved. A German firm has now patented a method of producing a type of dressing which lets in the air, no longer sticks, and thus makes the treatment of the wound much easier.
The material is called Novalind. It can be used for all kinds of dressings, from a small one for a cut on the finger to the very biggest dressings required after operations.
Novalind produces what can best be described as a tunnel effect. By this we mean that when Novalind comes into contact with blood or secreted pus, it lifts itself slightly away from the wound. It forms a tunnel, or to be more exact, a kind of ventilation shaft, which allows a free flow of air to the wound and prevents a congestion of warm air. That is to say, it prevents the formation of an incubator in which pus bacteria would thrive. If any hairs should stick, the doctor can lift the dressing and cut them off with a thin pair of scissors.
These qualities show the difference between the new material and ordinary lint. Lint consists of cotton threads, twisted by nature. This makes the surface rough and it sticks easily. Novalind consists of cellular fabric threads which have a completely smooth surface.
A wound feels comfortable under this type of dressing, and experiments have shown that it does not perspire. The healing of the wound is not affected, and all that is required is just one layer of the dressing, which of course makes it a commercial proposition.
Naturally, this dressing cannot be washed or used again, but this, after all, is only in line with the principles of modern hygiene.
To many people, a new material for dressings is only of minor importance compared to other achievements in the field of medicine. But it must be borne in mind that each of us cuts a finger at some time or other. Each of us might undergo an operation tomorrow, and then we too would have to go through the torture of having a dressing changed. Moreover, all over the world, thousands of people are injured in accidents on the roads and in the factories, so a perfect dressing is a big step forward and not just an achievement of minor importance.
And now we're going to hear about something decidedly dangerous, hurricanes, and what can be done to limit their effects.
Every year, tropical hurricanes inflict severe damage along the eastern seaboards of America and Asia, taking a fearful toll of human life, laying fields to waste, and destroying homes and property. It's been estimated that the dynamic force generated at the center of a hurricane each second is equivalent to that of between 2 and 3 atom bombs of the Nagasaki type.
Tropical hurricanes occur most frequently in late summer in windless regions close to the equator. We still know very little about them, but the supposition is that the air mass over a tropical island becomes gradually overheated, with the result that it begins to rise. The cooler air to the side then rushes in to fill the trough, and a dangerous situation is thereby created. The inrushing air doesn't go straight to the bottom of the trough, but circles under the influence of the Earth's rotation along the isobars, the lines of equal barometric pressure.
To be exact, the air moves around the storm trough in ever-decreasing circles, while the rising hot air causes a cloud formation and disperses itself in the form of rain. This rain, in its turn, creates further heat waves and adds further to the strength of the rising current of air.
In this way, the storm trough can go on increasing in force and sucking up more and more air masses. The winds blow ever faster, and the hot air waves strike up higher and higher until the storm has formed an extensive complex whose centre is a void created by centrifugal force, the so-called eye of the storm. And even in this void at the heart of the complex, the powerful air masses continue to spiral upwards.
A hurricane whose strength and path of travel is known isn't half as terrifying as one which strikes suddenly and without warning, and it was recognition of this fact which prompted the American Meteorological Services in 1956 to set up a permanent hurricane alert system which is constantly being improved upon. Earth satellites, radar, weather buoys, and specially equipped ships and aircraft are all part of the technical resources which the Americans have thrown in their attempts to bring the hurricane under control.
Recently, attempts were even made to accelerate the dispersal of the hot air into rainfall by using aircraft to spray the hurricane clouds with silver iodide. The object of the exercise was to establish whether by draining the cloud formations, the violence of the storm could be broken or its path altered. The Weather Service has a regular team of aircraft whose job it is to fly into the cloud turbulence of a freshly reported hurricane and bring back meteorological data. Using the data supplied in this way, a specially constructed electronic computer at the Hurricane Research Project's headquarters in Miami is able to work out the direction of the storm, its wind strength, and the velocity of its travel.
The first report of the existence of a hurricane build-up usually comes from a weather satellite. Apart from these satellites, and in addition to numerous smaller hurricane buoys along the American East Coast, a battery of radar stations maintains a constant alert, following the movement of the storms and alerting people living along the path of an approaching hurricane.
One actual example will demonstrate how important these warnings can be. On September the 8th, 1900, more than 6,000 people died in Galveston, Texas, when a hurricane tidal wave struck the coast without warning. Since that time, and particularly in the last few years, there has been a whole series of similar hurricanes along the Texan coast, but because warnings could be issued in time, only a fraction of the casualties of Galveston have been registered.
The defense chain and warning system has so far proved the most effective way of guarding against these savage blows from the primitive power of nature. It has been suggested on more than one occasion that atomic explosions should be staged or vast areas of the sea be set burning in order to weaken the latent strength of the gathering hurricanes by altering the prevailing wind conditions. But most meteorologists are highly skeptical, as one of them is reported as saying one might just as well take a penknife to bring down an elephant.
A new kind of instrument for the taking of temperatures, which has been developed by a firm in Neheim-Hüsten in the Ruhr area, could greatly facilitate the work of doctors, and especially of nurses in clinics and hospitals. With this instrument, the patient's temperature can be taken in 3 to 7 seconds.
This instrument, which runs on a small battery, is about the size of a small transistor radio. A temperature feeler takes the temperatures from the skin, and a needle indicates the temperature on a small dial with an accuracy of 0.1 degrees centigrade.
The tip of the temperature feeler is replaceable according to whether the temperature is to be taken in the armpit, under the tongue, or in the rectum. For special temperature observations, it is possible to take readings in any other part of the body. The tip of the feeler is easy to clean and to disinfect.
The price of this electronic thermometer is 248 Deutsche marks, or $62, and the manufacturers say that several hundred of them have already been supplied to doctors and hospitals. Those who have used them have expressed satisfaction about the saving in work involved, and doctors and nurses are particularly pleased that patients can no longer hoodwink them about their temperatures. whole lot of things that we used to do by hand are now done by machines. And one of the most talked about machines nowadays, even if it's all a bit of a pipe dream for the harassed executive, is the electronic secretary. Many a boss with staff trouble must have longed for a really efficient robot to take all the necessary dictation, something that required him simply to talk into a microphone and watch an automatic typewriter go to work on the crisp white stacks of notepaper.
The boss, of course, isn't the only one giving the idea a bit of attention. In Germany right now, no less than 4 different laboratories are working on the idea, even if, in the last few weeks at any rate, things don't seem to be working out quite as they were planned. By all accounts, the suspicion is beginning to take hold that the planning and the research may all turn out to be just so much wasted effort. A machine of the kind the boss has in mind may be a complete impossibility, at least in our lifetime.
Why is this so? Well, Dr. Werner Endres of the Research Institute run by the Central Office of Electrical Communications in Darmstadt puts it this way. The electronic secretary would have to be capable of quite a lot of things. It would have to reduce the stream of words into single words and then write them down correctly. It would have to recognize the structure and pattern of the individual sentence and be capable of putting in the full stops and commas. And it would have to do all of this with complete reliability. In other words, in expecting the machine to be complete master of the language it was working in, we would be demanding of it the very attribute in man which differentiates him from even the most intelligent of animals.
Still, the experts are not daunted. They console themselves with the thought that, since the human brain is clearly equipped with certain nerve functions, enabling it to distinguish individual words in a general stream of speech, and thereby making it possible for man to write these words down correctly, it must somehow be possible to construct a machine capable of doing the same thing.
Even so, there's no doubt that as things go at the moment, the machine is no match for its human counterpart. And in order to produce even the most elementary results, the lab boys have had to deviate quite a long way from the original intention. To begin with, they expect the user of the machine to speak with exaggerated clarity of diction, to insert tiresome pauses between words, and to give a clear and presumably correct indication of the required punctuation. Then again, he mustn't expect the machine to produce a letter typed in the normal alphabet, but has to content himself with a version in phonetic script.
And even if one can accept all these drawbacks, there's still more trouble ahead. When we hear one sound spoken in 2 different words, we detect no noticeable difference of quality, but the machine, alas, isn't so obliging. However peculiar it seems, the machine always manages to hear a completely different sound, and the reason is that the machine is confused by the reverberation set up by the previously spoken word. If it is to function properly, the machine will somehow have to retain a memory of the previous sound while extracting and decoding the current one, and at the moment such a feat appears to be quite beyond the bounds of possibility.
Until now, the most advanced machine evolved has required enormous electronic resources even to reproduce a mere 16 words, and it could be positively guaranteed to make a mistake on the 17th. That's, roughly speaking, the standard of a 6-year-old after 3 months' schooling.
It's a strange thing. We've always thought of hearing and writing as something perfectly simple, almost gifts of nature. And yet, the more we go into them, the more we realize just how much we're asking when we come up with the bright idea of an electronic stenographer for the city office. A machine capable of doing the stenographer's work wouldn't be very different from a robot verging on the human. Perhaps, after all, it's a good thing we're not yet capable of building it. Our Changing World is a presentation by the transcription service of Radio Deutsche Welle, the voice of Germany, Cologne.